Are we recording?
Yes, sir.
Welcome, everyone, to the Rink Rat Report podcast. This is a post, July 2nd for Leafs fans, or July 3rd, depending on what time you consider Domi signed, because was he sleeping? Was he not sleeping? It was a great debate July 2nd at night. As always, joined by Jason.
How's it going? I'm going to say a lot of people were not familiar with Brad Treliving's game because on July 1st, there were a lot of mean tweets. And then on July 2nd, there were a lot of happy tweets. And then I saw a lot of posts from, shout out to Joe on Twitter, Joe Hill. He DM'd me a hilarious picture. It's just I'm not familiar with your game pick from, I think Shaq said it, right? Sorry, brother, I was not familiar with your game. Like, that's literally 90% of Leafs Twitter after July 2nd, because what a great free agency so far for the Leafs. If you think about where we were last offseason and the pieces we got, the pieces we acquired versus where we are now this offseason, the pieces we got, the pieces we acquired, and the pieces that we let go, I think we're in a pretty tidy spot compared to previous years. Again, coming into the offseason, a lot of people I saw quickly for my ramble here, a lot of people I saw were comparing this team to the team that was in the playoffs. That's not really fair. We gave up 2 firsts, multiple seconds, prospects to build that team, right? This is the foundation. I think the foundation we've built has addressed the needs that we had this offseason. And I think that was the biggest misstep of last offseason. We didn't address those needs. So off the top, that's my 2 cents. I love July 2nd. How are you doing? I know you had a great July 1st, not Leafs related, but how was your July 1st and July 2nd? I don't know. I just know you had a little bit of a shindig. So just want to make sure that you recovered well and it was a good time. I mean, you must have been pissed though, seeing literally no signings for the Leafs.
Well, like we saw John Klingberg. Also, like, I saw Justin Hall go for $10 million. I saw a bunch of third pair defensemen go for $10 million. I saw Ryan Reaves get 6 years, $4.5 million per as well. I don't really like that one. I saw Tristan Jarry go for 5. Sorry to, be like the talk about your ex kind of thing, but I'm going to do it. I don't like what Kyle Dubas did. I think he spent a lot of money on some not that great players. Tristan Jarry's like a pretty good goalie, but for the last 2 or 3 times that they've actually really, really needed him, he's been injured. And now you give him 5 years, $5 million per. Ooh.
Yeah.
Okay, sure. And then you signed a third goalie. Okay, sure. Insurance. You signed a third goalie. You're not exactly like, I don't know. They had some room to spend, but now you got a third goalie. Is he going to go down on waivers? Is he going to be with the team? 3 goalies in the mix can screw up a goalie room a little bit, like in terms of playing time, or is the guy never going to play? Like, and then at 1.5, it's not variable fully. So if you send him down to Wilkes-Barre Scranton, you're going to have part of that's going to be on the cap. So I think Kyle Dubas did not address the secondary scoring that Pittsburgh needed. And he spent a lot of money not doing that. So kind of gave me a little bit. It was a little like they signed Noel Chari, who's a decent player. I liked him with the Leafs. But what he did this offseason for Pittsburgh kind of gave me like shades of previous off seasons, no?
Yeah.
We went through a playoffs where we had our third line tallied a goal from David Kampf at 5-on-5. Engvall and Pierre and Mikheyev couldn't do anything at 5-on-5, and we responded by signing Nick Ritchie, who I thought was at the time a good one. It was
a good dart throw, but like there were other guys we could have easily signed. We thought it was good too, but again, It's not our job to decide.
But like last season, Nicholas Aube-Kubel.
That one we knew that was bad. That one we knew.
That one we knew he wasn't going to score at all.
Exactly. And just to go off that point though, let's compare our ex to our current girlfriend right now, our current wife, however you want to call this, right? Like you see our ex, let's call him our ex, hand out money on free agency, $2 million here, $2 million there. You said $5 million for Tristan Jarry, right? $2 million on a Jarry, $2 million on, there was another player. I think it was a center. Was it Eller maybe?
Lars Eller, that's right. He gave Lars Eller 2 years, 2.45.
So you give these guys like 2 years and you're giving them
35.
Like you're giving a bunch of 35, 32 years old term. And meanwhile, we're sitting here. We just signed a guy who's 28 for 1 year and we got him for $5 million. You combine those 2 guys and that's it. And then on top of that, you got Max Domi, you got Ryan Reaves, you got John Klingberg. A lot of people weren't happy about the last 2, but I think the first 2 were really important because since the John Tavares and TJ Brody offseason, when we signed both those guys, Actually, those weren't in the
It wasn't
offseason.
at the same time.
Wasn't at the same time. So I guess since those two signings, we've never really had a prolific signing. And it's not saying you have to, but with the team that we had, we kind of needed someone to jump up in that top 6. We never really had that signing, but now we did. Who are you going to say?
Well, to give him credit, last season, off season, he did sign Samsonov. 2 seasons ago, It was Bunting. Those were the good ones. Yeah. However, you could argue, there was never any cap space for Kyle Dubas to do so. Yeah, well, he spent 4.6 on Matt Murray last off season, right? Like this off season for Brad Treliving. We're getting into it hot. We're way off topic, but who cares?
Way off topic. It's all good.
Brad Treliving era in Toronto, it didn't start very exciting. Like 1000% did not start very exciting. David Kampf, 4 years at 2.4 mil is an overpay. David Kampf is a 4th line defensive center. He's going to chip in 25 points. It seems like both seasons it's been 25, 26. He's going to kill penalties. He's going to win some faceoffs kind of thing. But like, you're not putting Pontus Holmberg in David Kampf's spot 1-for-1. Pontus Holmberg isn't as good defensively, number one. So he did that, and then he drafted Easton Cowan, whom a lot of people had in the 50s in the first round. Like, okay, you drafted him 28th overall. So David Kampf, Easton Cowan, and then your first signing, which we saw from a mile away, was Ryan Reaves for 3 years, right? One thing with the Ryan Reaves contract, not fully variable this season, probably will be next season and the season after, depending on what you want to do with him, right? So those first 3 moves from Brad Treliving and keeping Sheldon Keefe, which what else was out there, I'm not sure, but I'm not, whatever. Anyways, I'll going past that. So those 4 things to start the Brad Treliving era in Toronto. Like, I don't care what you think of Treliving. If you think he's a god, if you love Boston pizza, whatever. Those are like, you asked for a dirt bike for Christmas and instead you got like a carton of 2% milk. Like, it was very, very, very bland, we'll say. It was very, very bland. I have no other analogy for it. But if you were patient and you stuck with our 2 friends we got here. If you're watching on YouTube, this is a great YouTube plug because I'm not explaining what they are. If you stuck with our friend here, Faith and Believe, we got Tyler Bertuzzi on July 2nd for 1 year. He was looking for term, and we got him for 1 year. And then right after that, while the guy was sleeping, apparently, we got Max Domi too. We got John Klingberg before that, but whatever. We got Max Domi, Tyler Bertuzzi, and John Klingberg all on 1 year contracts. So it doesn't screw up the cap for next year. It doesn't affect anything for next year. I don't know. I'm a big fan of Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, and we'll get
in our episode. I went back and clipped it, and at the end of me describing Tyler Bertuzzi, we both went,
"Yeah, I want."
We're probably capped out from him,
but we all wanted him, right?
And we weren't.
We weren't. I'm so happy because again, this is a great thing that we kind of talked about as well last episode, is that we might see these shorter term deals just with the cap going up because agents are well aware of this. It's not like it's a secret, right? So it makes sense for these guys who think they're going to be able to cash in big to go with a good team. Take that 1 year term, expect the cap to go up. And maybe this is a free agency trend we might see over the coming years, right? If the league is expecting to grow, right? And the cap is going to continue to go up a lot. And like,
if they have another expansion team,
I mean, 2 expansion teams, apparently 34 would be bananas, 34 teams. But yeah, if we watch the cap go up, maybe we're going to see this trend continue. And this is something that a team like the Leafs or any Stanley Cup contending team needs to take advantage of, because you are essentially signing a fantastic player with 0 risk, right? The expected AAV for Tyler Bertuzzi was 5.56, was between 5 and 6. We got him for literally that number, and we have 0 long-term attachment to him, which is great, which is not the best, but also really good because he's an injury-prone player. Players tend to fall off in their 30s. So again, like these moves are very interesting. It's going to be interesting to watch these move forward, because this is something that I think the Leafs should start to continue to do. If we see the cap, if the rumors of the cap increasing continue year over year, we need to see teams do this more. And the biggest team,
I think the big thing why you were able to get Bertuzzi and Domi, like, you didn't blow your load early in this one.
Exactly.
Right?
That as well.
You didn't go into free agency with no money. And then, figured out, like, you waited. Like last year, Rodriguez got $2 million, 1 year, $2 million. And then this year, and he performed decently, like comparable, I would say, ish to his time in Pittsburgh versus his time in Colorado. And then this year, he got $3 million per for 4 years at 30 years old. Like, you wait, and sometimes guys will trickle through. Now, if the Leafs waited and didn't sign Domi, didn't sign Bertuzzi, you could have taken a shot at Tarasenko.
Yep.
He's still out there.
Still
right?
Still can.
Brandon Pridham would have. I know he did, and he's turned down a bunch of offers. But the Leafs are currently $8 million over the cap. So
yeah,
there would have to be some gymnastics to get that one done, and also it would have to be short term too. Let's be real.
Yeah,
we know Vlad Tarasenko. Anyways, so that was just the
little preamble,
kind of the feelings, the ramblings about what happened over the last week or so with the Leafs.
To close this out, a lot of people, hey, we see you on Twitter. Own up to it. Offer the man an apology if you feel like those day 2 signings were a lot better than those day ones. If you were critical on day 1, it's okay to admit you're wrong.
A lot of people can just say they were critical on day 1. It's like, oh, we got lucky.
That's crazy.
Fell through the cracks.
All right, yeah. All right, whatever.
We got lucky with John Tavares. Like,
I hope we get lucky
real.
and win a cup. Yeah,
yeah, we got lucky with John Tavares. He came to the Leafs. He said, "This is on the table. You need to give me this, and I will sign." Like, is that how negotiations typically work? That's what I heard, at least. But anyways,
moving on to the next topic we have. Let's go a little bit deeper into like the players that we signed. And I think the 4 most important ones that everyone is obsessed with. Starting off with Tyler Bertuzzi. We already talked about his deal. But just to refresh people on what exactly it was, Bertuzzi signed a 1-year deal at $5.5 million. And included in that deal, which is really important, is a no movement clause. So obviously the Leafs plan and foresee Bertuzzi to probably be playing in the top 6. They probably see him as a centerpiece.
You think he's going to make the team?
I give it a 50-50 shot. No. Obviously he's going to make the team, but they see him as a centerpiece for this team. I mean, last year with Boston, he did really well in the playoffs. It was like 10 points in 7 games, 5 goals against Florida. He's like I'm not a big believer in the playoff performer guy, but like this guy is like the proof in the pudding. If the guy like that exists, it's him, right? So I guess you could call him a Bunting replacement, but I think he's going to be better than Bunting. So Joe, you did a thread on Bertuzzi. I want to hand this off to you. I don't want to bury the lead here. If you haven't checked out the thread, go check us out on Twitter at Rink Rat Report and go look at that thread. Bite-size thread on how Tyler Bertuzzi plays his game. So like expand that, like give us some more info on that thread and like on what you see in Tyler Bertuzzi's game.
Yeah, I said it last episode as well. We put it on TikTok. Follow us on there if you have that app. But with Tyler Bertuzzi, what I see is a very smart player. Like, this is a guy that is pretty good at getting inside leverage on the puck, pretty good at shielding the puck too. He's listed at 6'1", 185. He looks a lot bigger than that. I don't know why. Maybe it's an optical illusion. Anyways, so throws his body around, functionally tough is how I put it. He doesn't put up a ton of hits. He's not going to run everyone through the boards and get the crowd going. He's going to get inside position at the front of the net. He's going to throw his ass out and protect the puck and buy himself some space. He's pretty good at throwing his weight around for what he has. On top of that, I love the way he scans in both the offensive zone and the defensive zone. Head on a swivel, always knows what his surroundings are, who's around him. You're going to see him throw like it looks like a blind pass behind the back to a wide open guy. Guess what? He knew that guy was there because he's always scanning, always knows where everyone is. Defensive zone in terms of coverage, I think is pretty good. And in terms of that, like in a 6-on-5 situation, I wouldn't mind him out there at all, right? In terms of defensive zone, though, he doesn't have the greatest amount of speed. He has trouble picking pucks up off the board while, accounting for pressure from the back from a pinching defenseman. So he's not going to exit the zone with the puck a ton, and also conversely, because he's not the fastest player, he's not going to enter the zone with the puck a ton as well, right? But you're going to get a lot out of him from cycle offense, I think, In front of the net, he's pretty good. He's really good off the puck too, creating space for himself. And again, can chip in with 20 plus goals, but is mainly a playmaker. He's a very, very good playmaker, in my opinion. To the guy on TikTok that was trying to be a troll and say, oh, he had 8 goals last year. Go get a job. How about that? He had 30 the year before. I don't have to say it again.
He also only played 50 games. So I feel like that's like
played
kind
50
of
games. His PDO was supposed to be around 100.
Yeah.
It was at 925 with the Red Wings. He had a tough time coming back from back surgery, or a back injury or some sort of injury. But the first few games, first 10 or so games with the Wings, he had no points at all. And he was just getting PDO bombed. His shooting percentage was in the ground. He was just getting unlucky, and it was a small sample size. And then guess what? With the Bruins, he was fantastic. Boston fans were hammering the table. We want Bertuzzi back. And a lot of them were pretty damn upset when he didn't sign. Pete Blackburn is the biggest Leafs hater, loves the Bruins. And it just brought a smile to my face to see him say no when Bertuzzi signed with the Leafs for 1 year, 5.5. Probably turned that offer down from the Bruins too.
And this is an open invitation to Pete Blackburn. If he ever wants to come on the show and discuss how much the Leafs suck, you're more than welcome to come on here and we'll go back and forth about the Bruins. But that was a perfect thing. And I think I forgot to write this down, but that's I think that's one of the bigger things about this signing is that not only did we get a great free agent, we got a guy from literally our division rivals. I think right now, Boston or Tampa are our rivals. We don't care about Montreal.
Boston and Tampa notably got worse.
Exactly. And the biggest thing is that Boston went out of their way to clear cap space with trading Tyler Hall in what I assume is an attempt to keep a guy like Tyler Bertuzzi, and they weren't able to do that. That is massive for us. I love that little, again, that's doesn't really matter because if Tyler Bertuzzi would go to 30 other teams, it wouldn't really make a difference. But the feeling of us stealing him from the Boston Bruins, that's a win for me. I know that's such a small win, but that's a win for me. So moving on from,
look at the competitive teams in the Atlantic too, just to go off a little bit.
Yeah, cool.
Tampa Bay lost Ross Colton. They lost Ian Cole. Pat Merlin was a fourth line or whatever. It doesn't matter. But they lost him
I'd argue
too.
Still an impactful player for them. Maybe not
I guess.
on the maybe not
seemed to be impactful
but
against the Leafs for some reason.
I don't know how he would score against us so often. Anyways, keep going.
I know. Just the dumbest. Frustrating. But yeah, an annoying player to play against. But he knows his role. I'd say that. And Ian Cole was a top 4-ish guy for them too. So that's not a small loss. And then you look at the Bruins, they're not sure if Bergeron's coming back. They're not sure if Krejci's coming back. They traded away Taylor Hall. Now they lost Tyler Bertuzzi.
They lost Connor Clifton as well, who's
they lost Connor Clifton. He was their 6-7D for them.
Still
but
good.
On top of that, they lost Orlov. If you're going to include that, they lost Garnet Hathaway, right? So those are pretty big losses right there.
Exactly. Moving on from that, though, where does Bertuzzi fit in the lineup? Right,
for sure, top 6.
Top 6 for sure. But how do we see our roster construction with him? Right, I guess the first question. The first question is how do you structure a roster? Right, because we saw different things. Last year we saw Matthews Marner for 50 games and maybe let's say 65% of the games, and then we saw Matthews Nylander for the other odd games. So where do you think he fits? Which centerman would he work best with? Number one, between Tavares and Matthews, because assuming those guys are going to be your top 6 centers. And then also, who do you see on the wing with them?
So yeah, very good question. We're not really going to tell how it works until we see it on the ice, essentially, right? But here's my stab at it. He could work with Matthews, Marner, and then you go Bertuzzi as well. I think with that playmaking ability and that net front ability and his ability to create space for himself, he could work very, very well with Mitch Marner, and then dishing pucks off to Matthews too. Marner can be the puck transporter on that line. I think Matthews can-ish, but doesn't for some reason. Who knows? So I wouldn't count for Matthews to be the primary puck mover on that line, but things could change here and there. I could see in terms of a defensive adding some defensive responsibility to Nylander, Tavares, or even if you go Nylander, Matthews, Bertuzzi, I think that could work too. But if you go Bertuzzi, Nylander, Tavares, my issue could be the puck, the speed.
Yeah.
Like him and Tavares together could be pretty slow. So that's not something. Maybe it'd be something I would try. I mean, he is defensively responsible. Again, that could help there. But then, two guys that can't really skate the puck up the ice at all, I would say, could be a little bit tough. I mean, Max Domi could play center. I'll get into him. Could he be a fit with him? Potentially. I mean, wouldn't rule it out if you go like maybe, I don't know, like something like Nyes, Domi, Bertuzzi. Maybe that could work. I don't know. I think that could possibly work. So something like that. But obviously though, in that top 6, maybe if you want to spread the love a lot, that top 9, you could even say, depending on who's the third line center. Obviously, you're not putting him with David Kampf, like that'd just be a waste. But so top 6 will, just to say whatever. Top 6, I think he could fit in a few different permutations there.
Okay, and then so top 6, that makes sense. But do you think, like, seems like what you're saying, better fit is with Matthews than with John Tavares, assuming John Tavares is our second C, right?
So. I think he's like the Leafs replacement for Michael Bunting. I'm not saying he's like 1-for-1 with Michael Bunting. Yeah. I like Bertuzzi better.
I agree.
I think Michael Bunting has more speed, but Bertuzzi is a smarter player, better defensive player, better playmaker than Michael Bunting. Similar-ish in terms of goals ability, but yeah, better player than Michael Bunting. So where did Bunting fit best?
Alongside those two. Yeah. So, okay, that makes sense. And I've also seen, like, I think you touched on it for a second there, but I've seen like Nylander float around maybe on that line with Matthews and Bertuzzi, assuming let's staple those two guys together. But do you think Nylander would be better than Marner? I think Marner would still be better on that line though, like just for me.
Yeah. Like, I mean, remember they flipped it. The goals seem to work. The expected goals seem to go down a little bit. So who knows? I mean, like line mates, you can get stale. So switching it up doesn't kill you.
Exactly. Okay. And then my final thing here. So Bertuzzi actually played a lot of power play time in the playoffs for the Bruins, right? He was there. He was 4th in time on ice on the power play. So that means he was playing pretty much PP1 for them.
Yeah.
So
no, he was.
I don't know exactly where he was playing there.
More net front.
Was he on net front? So do you see,
I think net front kind of bumper?
Do you see him potentially playing on the Leafs power play? Power play 1 in particular? Get bumped.
Barring injury. So what they could do is the same thing what they did with O'Reilly. Remember?
And
how
so
they
put
did that?
Bertuzzi in O'Reilly's spot?
Yeah.
Okay.
My thing is though, I would just be like smarter with that. I mean, remember last playoffs, Nylander was getting hot. And then in the power play, even though they were very few and far between against the Panthers, frustratingly so, like there was times where you thought, okay, you should switch it up kind of thing, get more speed through the neutral zone and whatever. And they didn't. I think potentially he could fit where O'Reilly was, but I mean, to say he's replacing John Tavares, look, John Tavares was 6th in the league in power play points last season. You can't discount that.
No,
right?
And I think that makes sense. I don't think he would replace Tavares, but again, like we're saying, like Nylander, if Nylander were in his position versus Bertuzzi, is Bertuzzi maybe more effective at that position than Nylander is? So then does that make sense for him to be on PP1? I don't know. We'll see. These are things we'll probably see
I would
to
still,
training camp.
If I were putting together the power play, I would probably do Klingberg, Matthews, Nylander, Marner, Tavares.
Way to bury the lead on that one.
I know,
but
sorry.
It's all good. It's all good. Don't worry. We're gonna get around to that in a minute. So yeah, like that just about wraps up everything we want to touch on with Tyler Bertuzzi's game.
Baseball is back, and I know everyone wants to hit a home run, but you can't do that when your untrimmed bush is starting to look like Wrigley Field. Get your game on point with Manscaped, and you can start scoring on and off the field with their top-notch grooming products, trusted by 8 million men worldwide. Grab some Cracker Jacks, a hot dog, and the Lawnmower 4.0, and let's play ball. Don't forget to use code RINKRAT, RINKRAT, for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com. That is RINKRAT for 20% off and free shipping at manscaped.com.
Moving off of Tyler Bertuzzi, though, we're going to go straight into Max Domi. So Same thing, kind of similar thing to Tyler Bertuzzi here, right? Domi signed a 1-year, $3 million deal. He has a modified no trade clause. It's 10-team no trade clause. So if things don't go 100% as we expect them to go here, we could see potentially Domi being moved, which is what I like that little modified no trade clause, because if you want to upgrade on him, it's very easy to do so, and you can move him out if cap is an issue there. So that's a sneaky thing I like about his game, about that deal. I mean, what is there to say about Max Domi that hasn't already been said when it comes to the Leafs, man? Like, he's literally like grown up with this organization. Mm-hmm. His dad literally played for the team, was one of the heart and souls of those early 2000 teams. Everybody loved them.
Literally, no way.
So, yeah, I mean, like, a good fit for like fans, I guess, like for the casual fans or like the older fans.
Wise.
Yeah, it's gonna be great.
Content wise, right now, it was crazy just seeing all the pictures of them together.
Exactly, and it, like just seeing him with Matt Sundin, it's just good stuff. But regardless of that, like his game is actually pretty good last year in the playoffs. He had 13 points in 19 games. Right? He was no Joe Blow Schmo, right? He did pretty well for that Boston.
He wasn't playing a huge
Dallas Stars
amount
team
either.
Exactly. So I believe it was a bottom 6 role for that Dallas team. Was effective, scored 3 goals, 10 assists. He's more of a playmaker anyway, so you expect him to like be more of an assist guy. So where does he fit?
3 goals, and I think 2 of them were empty netters.
Okay, I didn't know that. But anyway, hey, you know what? Points are points. Points are points. So again, 10 assists.
The one empty netter he got was like in the same game. Like it was a play where he was able to get it and get a wrap around, really good chance, and then just I think it was Adam Larson at the last second, like dove out on the empty net and blocked it. So he deserved that goal.
So he should have 4 goals then. But anyways, yeah. So where do you think he fits with this team? I guess. What do you think? Do you think he fits in the top 6 here, or is he a bottom 6 guy? Is he going to play on the wing, or is he going to play center? What do you think?
The more I dig into it, the more questions I have. Like,
okay, good questions or bad questions?
Questionable questions.
Okay.
Unfortunately,
that's
like
okay.
I like Max Domi. I like his physical skills, and I like there's certain things that he brings that the Leafs really like glaringly lacked last year. However, there are a lot of questions with his games, and when you look at all the player cards across the internet, you can see it's not a secret. His defensive numbers are pretty terrible, right? In terms of Max Domi, like number one, him and Domi Bertuzzi, this is not 2001 anymore. If those guys, if Tyler Bertuzzi and Max Domi had Swedish last names, if they were Svensson and Edvinsson, people wouldn't really be talking about the toughness. They're yappy, and they bring snot, as Brad Treliving said. That's more of a correct term to it. They like to yap. They like to, they like to talk a lot. They're not going to run someone through the boards though at all.
Yeah.
Right. So you got a couple yappers, which can be entertaining. In terms of Max Domi's game, where I see him with the Leafs, I thought for sure it was going to be on the wing. I was convinced, like, put up some good playoff numbers with Dallas, 13 points in 19 games, as you said, like was playing the wing there. But like positionally on the wing, it was really weird watching. It looked almost awkward, especially in his own zone. Like, I feel like his play away from the puck needs a lot of improvement. Well, he's 27. I don't know how much it's going to be improved,
not
but
a lot of time
anyways,
left.
It's not. Yeah. Okay. 28's not that old, please. What are we going to find? Are we picking out his retirement home already?
No, but not a lot of time left to build that defensive.
Yeah. You're not learning
acumen into your game. Yeah. Like,
anyways, so like I found when he was on the wing, he would kind of like bleed into the center ice position way too much, and then he would leave his boards, and then he would miss the puck coming around the boards there. Like I found him just kind of floating too much into the center ice and then losing his position totally at times there. And then I also saw Andrew Berkshire mention something as well, and I think at Shutdown Line on Twitter, good follow, agreed as well. Like when he's playing the wing, like it's kind of awkward. It almost feels like he's not used to it. But then at center, he's not very strong defensively. So it's
questions.
Those are the
biggest.
I have a lot of questions where he's going to fit.
Okay.
Unfortunately.
So
like if you can't put him with Nylander Tavares, that line would just be an abomination defensively. Unfortunately, it would be terrible, right?
Okay. Yeah.
Can you put him with Matthews, Marner? Again, I have the questions about on the wing. Is that just Nick Ritchie? Is that a smaller 100 pounds less Nick Ritchie in that situation? Yeah. Potentially it actually is, unfortunately. So then third line, you put him third line. Who's he partnered with? Maybe Calle Yarncroc. Okay, that's something there. Maybe say Matthew Nyes, but then who's playing top six? That's a question there too. Is it Bobby McMahon? Well, I'm not sure. So I have some questions about where he fits. I'd more so say third line center right now, if I were to guess.
Okay.
I don't know. This is just an inclination I have in terms of the good parts of his game. Though.
Yeah,
those are the tough parts, right? I unfortunately started with that. He play away from the puck. He's not very smart. He does not scan enough. He doesn't scan enough, I find, and that leads to his play away from the puck not being as effective as it could be.
Okay.
His physical skills, though, are pretty darn good. He's fast and he's skilled, and his shot for his size is not bad. Like, you give him a little bit of time, he can beat the goalie from distance because he gets some good velocity on his shot there. He can really rip it, I would say. But yeah, he also, like the thing that I mentioned earlier, what he brings that the Leafs lacked last season was some rush offense. I really like his passing ability through the neutral zone. His ability to carry the puck and enter the zone with the puck, I think, is pretty good. Like, with the puck, he's pretty darn good, I would say so. However, unfortunately, away from the puck, it's a bit of another story. And then, like, his cycle offense, I'm not sure how great it is. I will give him credit here. His playmaking ability with the puck is pretty darn good. I like the way he's able to take the puck from low danger areas, and like his saucer ability is incredible. His saucer ability, his ability to get it through high danger areas to other sides into space, his ability to pass the puck into high danger areas is really good as well. With the puck, he seems just very poised because he handles the puck so well, and he's able to fit it through seams really well. Just away from the puck, I have some questions. And I think, with all of this being said, I think the big thing with Max Domi is then fit. When you look at his career too, like, look at everything. Stellar rookie season. Fell off a bit in his second season. I don't know if he got a third season with the Coyotes. If he did, it was pretty mid. I can't remember. Goes to Montreal. 72 points with Montreal. That's a hell of a season. Next season after that, 44 points. Drops a little bit. Okay. Then gets traded to Columbus. Has an abysmal season with Columbus. Then the next season, steps it up a little bit. Plays a little bit better with Columbus. Gets traded to Carolina. Does okay there. He's only playing like fourth line, whatever. And then signs last season with Chicago, gets paired with Patty Kane, and it goes about as Patty Kane-ish as you can imagine. Terrible defensive numbers, but put up 40 points in 60 games, whatever, with Chicago, and then goes to Dallas. Get some decent line mates there, I would say. At times, from what I was watching, I saw some Marchman in there, I saw some Sagan, so I saw a little bit of Jamie Benn here and there, and does pretty well in the playoffs. So I think fit is going to be really important here, and it's going to take a lot of different variations to figure out where he fits, in my opinion.
So I'm going to cut you off right here. I think I disagree with you here. I think I don't know if you realize it, but I think you listed the perfect winger. And I understand you said you had him listed potentially as a center, but I think you have the perfect winger for our third line. If you have David Kampf and Calle Yarncroc on that third line, I think that's a perfect winger for them, because again, those are two, like David Kampf, we obviously know is incredibly defensively responsible. Calle Yarncroc is not the best defensive forward out there, but he's responsible enough in his own zone. Both guys are able to help in the transition game. And if Max Domi can be more positionally sound on the wall, like you said, I don't think he's going to be that much of a liability in his own zone. Mind you, remember, he's been, like you said, 4 different teams in the last 3 years. That can't be easy when you're grasping systems. I know that's their job, but when you're playing for a team like Columbus, playing for a team like Chicago, you're going to lose the game regardless. You don't care if you're going to get scored on. You want to put up as many points as possible. So hopefully that mindset shift happens, and hopefully he's going to be more responsible in our own zone.
He's just going to be smarter. Yeah,
exactly. But which two players worked really well with David Kampf? Ilya Mikheyev and Pierre Engvall, right? Both guys, I mean, they're different style of games. They're very good defensively, but they both have that rush offense, right? And that's what we're kind of missing. So that for that third line, that'd be perfect right there to inject that rush offense. Go ahead.
Okay, so I actually do agree. That is something I didn't consider.
Yeah.
That is something I did not consider there. I like that idea. So then in such case, Max Domi is probably not going to be a 60-point guy with the Leafs because Chicago was just such a tire fire. He was getting first power play, first everything. Like, he's not going to get that with the Leafs. He's going to be closer to 40 points. And then hopefully you can cover up that defensive blemish there. Okay. I can see that. I can roll with that. And then your other two wingers could be then Matthew Nyes and Tyler Bertuzzi.
Yeah, and the top six.
Upper. Yeah.
Exactly.
Okay.
The only thing I worry about there is that second line is still slow. But maybe to start the season, maybe they test out Max Domi on that line. I don't know.
Yeah, but if you get Matt, it would be nice, in my opinion, on the second line if you do Tavares Nylander. And if you get Matthew Nyes to learn how to hold his stick properly in the neutral zone, then you can get some more speed through that.
Yeah, and if anyone thinks we're like we love Matthew Nyes here, he just has the weirdest habit of flipping a stick over. We're not like chirping him. He's a great player.
Really.
It's just like the simplest fix that like just will take a half second off your game, and you need that half second in the pros. So
he holds his blade upside down when he's like when he's about to get the puck, his blade's upside down, and then he has to flip it, and it takes a half second. And it's kind of like when you're juggling a tennis ball with a tennis racket, but then someone throws another ball at you. Like,
takes some time.
It takes a little bit of adjusting. It's just stick on the ice, please.
Exactly. So to wrap up Max Domi here, obviously great offensive player, has playmaking ability, which is why part of the reason also why I see him working with that third line. Yarncrook can score. I mean, I'm not going to say David Kampf can score, but at least he scored 10 goals before, 9 goals, 5 goals, whatever. He can shoot the puck and can bury.
Domi's probably closer to a 15-goal guy. I think 20 was
a little high for him. Yeah, but I see him more as a creator on that line anyway. So with all his so he has that offensive efficiency. Now his deficiencies, struggles in his own zone. And we see that potentially David Kampf can cover that up along with Calle Yarncrook. Maybe that's the outlook for the line. If I don't know, you let us know if you think if you think that's the right combination.
The defense is real. Like there are times where you have to criticize he was on a bad team, whatever. No, there was times where it was just like, he's just not looking. That's fine. And they put it right behind him. And it was like, oh, oops.
Listen, if you're playing on a third line, you put up 40 points, I'll take that. I'll take that any day of the week. So
David Kampf can cover some things up that way. You know what? You brought up something I did not consider at all. Good on you.
Exactly. So moving on from any more from there, or you want to move on?
That was all. No, I think we covered him pretty good.
All right, moving on to Klingberg then. Obviously, the one that move on. Was it Monday, Sunday? I don't even know. Whatever. On July 1st.
July 1.
On July 1st.
It was him and Reaves. Yeah.
Yeah, that people were not too happy about. Similar thing to Max Domi, 1 year by $4.15 million. The modified no trade clause, which is the key here, 10 teams, and this is more so for Klingberg than Domi. But like I said before, if he doesn't work out, ship him out. Like, you can, I could see a playoff team that would easily want a guy like Klingberg who doesn't have that ability. Maybe a team that'll miss out on Gostisbehere this offseason here. But I mean, you said four games in the playoffs, 4 points for Minnesota, was in and out of the lineup, right? He was hurt a bit. I mean, we saw what he did previous seasons, but last year was just brutal with him in Anaheim. Like, good thing he fired his agent, because that was the biggest mistake of his career. He should have gone term, didn't get term, but I mean,
why are you going to Anaheim?
It's crazy.
They just had a bunch of they had a bunch of offensive defensemen there, and then they just added another one. And it was like, okay, but who's going to be playing defense here?
It's crazy. But we've seen him play well before, right? If you take, like, this isn't fair to say, but again, like, look past the Anaheim year, his last 3 years in Dallas, his defensive game wasn't the best there, but he was an elite offensive producer, right? If he can even come close to that, I think this is an invaluable signing for the Leafs. And on top of that, really good puck mover, right? We're pretty much exchanging Justin Hall, who I think a lot of people didn't like his puck movement abilities in our own zone. We're exchanging that and we're replacing him, it seems like, with John Klingberg. Now, where he fits in the lineup, I'm not sure yet, right? What his role will be, I'm not sure yet. You watched a little bit of John Klingberg. Tell us more about his game.
Yeah. I'm very curious to see where they fit him in there. The defensive weaknesses are real. Like, you know how we've talked about it before, Morgan Riley's gap control.
Yeah.
He's got about a Morgan Riley gap control.
Okay. Well,
it's not because he can't skate backwards. He's a much better backwards skater than Morgan Riley. It's just really weird because like the rush will come in and he'll just like stand there, won't challenge the guy, and he'll just like get ready as if he's playing second goalie at the top of the circles. It's like, what are you doing here? Like the rush is, why are you giving him so much space and then just stopping like dead in your tracks there? He really struggles to angle guys off the rush. In his own end, he's very weak. Like I think I could take him in front of the net. He's pretty darn weak. He tries very hard, but he's pretty darn weak. And I think I saw Jason Robertson just dummy him in front of the net at one point. On top of that, at times tries to do way too much with the puck in his own end. So that's where the defensive numbers are really going to take a hit. Like the turnovers in his own end, the weird ass gap control, not a very strong player in front of his net. He can prod the puck free though, so he can kind of get himself the puck. And on top of that, he's a phenomenal passer. Like in terms of slip passes through guys in the defensive zone to the forward on the wall there, his ability to then skate the puck up, his ability to join the rush. Like his skating is so smooth. His edges are beautiful. His ability to drag the puck along the blue line is phenomenal. He's such a good skater. I think this is a testament to it. He was playing left side. He's a right shot defenseman. He was playing left side for the Minnesota Wild in the playoffs and he looked like John Klingberg out there on the left side. Like you have to be a pretty darn good skater to be able to do that. One weird thing, when they chip the puck in, he's good at like, okay, he watches the play. The puck goes behind him. He watches the play, scans on what's going on out there. But then like at times I felt like he was doing it too long and then just completely lost where the puck was behind him. When he turned around, he was like, oh, the puck's not there. Where is it? And then lost it and they went in for a chance. I was like, it's a quick scan. And then the puck's most important there, but phenomenal hands, phenomenal skater. I love the way he ran the power play too. It got a lot of movement going there too. So sometimes the Leafs power play gets a little stale. I think that would really, really help it out. He can put up like 10 plus goals, which is pretty good for a defenseman. The last one, no defenseman got over 6 goals for the Leafs last year. So that'll be a big help. But in terms of like what the Leafs defense, when you look at the playoffs last year, especially in the Florida series, even in the Tampa series, it was very prevalent too. A lot of turnovers in our own end because the Leafs defense was not fast at all. We had a pretty slow decor. And so at times they struggled to pass the puck out. I think John Klingberg brings some good speed. Unfortunately, does not bring any defensive ability. So you're going to have to shelter him there or you're not going to have a good time. I would like to see him on power play 1 though. Like regardless of what we just saw from Riley in the playoffs, I think he brings a lot that the Leafs power play has been yearning for there. I have seen Kevin Papetti. We've had him on the show, guest of the show, was saying this is kind of like a Tyson Barrie acquisition from years past. I kind of struggle to disagree with that, unfortunately, but possibly, I mean, Tyson Barrie, they brought him in. He was supposed to play top 4. Maybe they were top 2, actually. He was supposed to play 20 plus minutes. Maybe they bring Klingberg in and they know, okay, you got to shelter this guy a little bit, right? Because he's not getting any stronger. Like, let's get real.
Yeah. The only pushback I have on that is that I don't think our decor was as good, if I remember correctly, as it is right now, right? Maybe I'm wrong on the.
What do you mean?
I feel like we have.
when the Leafs got
Tyson Barrie. I feel like
it was horrible.
The pieces around it are better now. So I think
yes,
a rising tide raises all ships, right? So
yeah,
maybe I don't disagree with like the.
Well, actually, no, you got Jake
type.
Muzzin. So you had Muzzin, Morgan Riley, no Brody at that time.
Muzzin,
Morgan Riley, Tyson Barrie, Cody Ceci, Justin Hall.
Martin Marincin, I'm pretty sure.
Is it Martin Marincin? We might be missing one, but who cares?
Yeah.
Anyways,
So
it didn't get off to a hot start. I'll tell you that for free,
someone who
especially
we
when they didn't have Muzzin.
listen, if we can't remember them, then they're probably not that good, right? So, but yeah, like I agree with what you're saying though in the Tyson Barrie thing. Similar play style, similar players, but I think Klingberg has a better track record of being an offensive defenseman than
Was it
Tyson...
Travis Dermott?
Dermott. It was Dermott. Yeah.
Yes.
Klingberg probably has a better track record, and again, like you said, I think the biggest thing is the goal scoring ability. He had, I think, 4 of the last 5 seasons, he had 10 goals or was on pace for 10 goals. And I'm counting those COVID years as on pace because, like, I'm sorry, 50 games doesn't really count. But yeah. So again, and I think the biggest difference this makes is on the power play one. I love Morgan Rielly's game in the playoffs. He looked fantastic, but I still think there was issues with power play one. His ability to pass the puck on the point is nowhere near as good as John Klingberg was. I remember watching John Klingberg 1 or 2 years ago and being fascinated with how he, like you said, how he handles the puck across the top of the blue line. It's magic. It's wizardry. He's one of the better players in the NHL at doing that.
Fitting pucks like dragging along the blue line, throwing it through a screen, like through seams, and just trying to get it through space like that, like what Jake Gardner used to do.
Exactly, and he's an aggressive passer. He's a smart passer, and he's quick. That's the biggest thing, is that it's very quick, very snappy, and he's always moving. Morgan Rielly tends to sometimes get on skis on the point and not create movement, which is, again, it's not criticizing him, but like, if we want our power play to be elite and take that next step, I think adding a guy like Klingberg was that next step. So we touched on his power play ability, but like,
the power play is already elite.
Yeah, no, of course. But like, if we want to make it better, right? We want to have the best team in the league. So that's what we have. That's, I think, the key thing for us to do here. But fit in the lineup. So we talked about his game in his own zone, struggles a bit. We talked about his power play ability. Where does he fit? I think you kind of hinted towards him as like a third D. Do you think that's like the 3RD, or do you think he's top 4? What do you think?
So then the pairings would have to be something like, if you go back to Rielly, Brody, McCabe, Logren, and then Giordano, Klingberg, something like that. Like, I'm afraid they're going to overplay him, and then it's going to be like, oh boy. And then, in the playoffs, like, having 2 heavy offensive defensemen with defensive deficiencies in your top 4, and especially guys that struggle to kill the cycle, and kill the cycle, suppress shots like that. Like, it's going to be tough if you have both those guys in the top 4. But then again, like I mentioned, like Lilgren instead of him in the top 4, like, how well does Lilgren really do that? Well, it's getting better, I hope. So
we hope for the progression there. But one thing I'd push back on there is for the playoffs is that Morgan Rielly got to give him credit, did play well defensively in the playoffs, did do things that we weren't normally accustomed to seeing him do in the playoffs, was better at breaking up the cycle, was decent in front of the net. Gap control was still an issue, but it seemed like there was less opportunities for that in general, for those rush chances where it was just him back there. So maybe we can make this work if they're in the top 4 together, or maybe not. And one last thing I want to touch on.
I wouldn't put them together. That'd be...
no, that's just pure chaos. But hey, you know what? You're down 2 goals, 2 minutes left in the game. Throw those 2 guys out there with the big 4, and I think you got a pretty pure chaos. Cocaine, driving a motorcycle out of a building on cocaine, shooting guns. Like, that's the type of offense we're probably going to see there if we're ever in a 6-on-5 situation. But last thing I want to touch on is I don't even know if this guy's going to be on the team, but could you see him play lefty with Connor Timmins? Is that like a thing or no?
There would have to be a lot of injuries. Okay. But who knows? There was a lot of injuries last year.
Exactly.
And the one thing a lot of people said, oh, we had Eric Gustafsson. What was the difference? Eric Gustafsson signed for $800K. What was the difference? Blah, blah, blah. Gustafsson is way more chaotic out there. Gustafsson plays pond hockey. It seems like he's just midfield, back, forth, can't skate backwards either. Like, Gustafsson, in order to create offense, had to play a lot more dangerously. I think John Klingberg can produce it more organically. Not that he doesn't like to jump into the rush. He loves to jump up into the rush. However, like, as we mentioned, getting pucks through screens, making a guy miss through the neutral zone, whatever. Like, that's where John Klingberg is a lot better than Eric Gustafsson. And also, Gustafsson had 1 good 60-game sample size with Washington. Like, that doesn't all of a sudden make him all-worldly defense, offensive defenseman. So
Exactly. I mean, like, it's pretty clear the proven track record that John
yeah.
Klingberg has. So I'm happy with the signing. I know some people weren't, but I mean, let us know if you.
It's okay.
If you like,
I'm curious to see how it fits.
It
brings something, but then it also takes away something. So
exactly. There's going to be a ton of other moving parts this offseason. So if you like the deal, you let us know. Moving on from there, we got the most fun deal, I think, that we made, and the signing on July 1st. The first deal on July 1st. I think the first of any deal that was reported, almost confirmed. That was confirmed the night of the night before July 1st. And that was Ryan Reaves. Ryan Reaves signed
the Grim Reaver.
I love that. 3-year deal. $1.35 million deal for 3 years. Biggest thing is that he's a 35 plus contract. He signed at 36 years old. So this is going to be his 36, 37, 38 seasons. He's not the youngest dude, not the most spry chicken, as the kids like to say. But I mean, were you able to watch him at all, or were you just kind of pass on him? I think we know the type of player he's going to be. He's going to be a fourth line player, right? What are your thoughts on the re-signing in general, though?
Fourth line, chip and chase. Probably shouldn't be in the lineup in playoffs. Can protect your guys if needed, and if he's on the ice out there at the same time. I mean, like, the big issue I have is like, oh, people are like clapping for it. Oh, we got Ryan Reaves. This is really gonna add like character in the locker room. Sure, that does add something, but however, like, protecting your stars, like, did we not go through this with Clifford and Simmons? If they're not on the ice, how are they supposed to protect them? It's 10-game suspension. Unless they're willing to, hey, Ryan Reaves, you're going to take a 10-game suspension anytime you see Austin Matthews get touched out there. Then sure, I think this signing is well worth it. Actually, only 4 fights last year, I believe. So not fighting as much, throwing the body a lot. But, I mean, yeah, this is your 12th, 13th forward, in my opinion, that shouldn't be in the lineup in playoffs. I mean, just there were so many times in the playoffs when he was in the lineup with Minnesota or the Rangers where the puck just gets stuck in their own end when he's out there, unfortunately. Other than physicality, I'm not too sure what he really brings.
Yeah, fair enough. I mean, there's not really much for me to say about him. I think the physicality is obviously the biggest factor here, but yeah, like I mean, again, if he makes people think a half second before they go and step in on and make a big hit on a guy like Matthew Nyes, or if Nick Robertson's in the lineup and that's the case, like, I don't hate it. I mean, we don't really know what goes on in the locker room, and a lot of people seem to like that aspect of it. And I think that was a big thing that Reaves mentioned in the
that's what Treliving mentioned too.
In the trade set, like he was on TSN Trade Center for an interview, and I think that was a big piece. So I mean, if that helps build the community in the room, I think that's a great addition. We mentioned this before, but his deal is variable up to $200K. So if shit hits the fan, we don't like how he plays, we bury him in the minors, it's only $200K on the cap hit. So I think we're skeptical to see if he has a lot of game left on the ice, regardless of his toughness. Like, we're talking about actual game, 200-foot game. We don't know if it's really there, but
he had 15 points last year.
Yeah, if it's not there, the worst case scenario is that you send him down to the minors for $200K on the cap, and that's really not that big.
Didn't he score 2 goals against the Leafs 2 years ago with the Rangers?
Maybe, I don't know. I'm sure he did. Everyone likes to score goals against Leafs, it feels like, but yeah. So I guess I think the biggest thing for him is that I think he's gonna help us out off the ice, which is good, and I think he's going to bring that calming presence in the locker room and on the ice that will kind of intimidate people. And I think that's kind of the theme with the 3 forwards that we signed this offseason, is that they're like you said, more snot per 60. Or snot per 60 is through the roof right now. So last one question before we go here is, I'm going to put an injury clause on.
We got one more other thing you missed. We signed Dylan Gambrell. This is the first time I've ever seen NHL.com roster break a signing, because none of the insiders had it. Nobody had announced it. And Dylan Gambrell appeared on the Leafs roster on NHL.com.
That's hilarious. I love that.
They signed him 1 year, league minimum, played 60 games last year with Ottawa. 3 points in his last 4 games or something like that, but only like 10 all year. Yeah. He's probably going to be with the Marlies.
Yeah. I don't know. I'm going to quickly disagree with you on that. I think he might be playing with the big club and be like a 13th forward and probably be the stop little barrier in between the Leafs and Pontus Holmberg. One thing that he did a lot of for Ottawa was play a lot of penalty kill time. We lost we lost Achari and Ryan O'Reilly were our two biggest penalty killers behind behind Marner and
Lafferty can penalty kill.
Lafferty can't penalty kill. We haven't seen him do it for the Leafs. So that's the only thing.
Yeah.
And then Kerfoot was the guy who was killing penalties behind those two guys in the season. So that's kind of what I see him as, just simply a PK replacement here for the Leafs. But yeah, just quick on that. Nothing really.
Yeah. If your fourth line, though, is Pontus Holmberg, Dylan Gambrell, and Ryan Reaves. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So they play 5 minutes. Doesn't matter. As long as they don't get scored on, doesn't matter. So, yeah, moving on from there, like, listen, we had, what was it? Four big signings, one minor signing, and it was busy free agents.
Will Lagesson as well. He used to be with the Oilers. It's a very, very small signing, two-way deal.
Yeah.
Just had to bring that up. Sorry.
Yeah, that's fine. That's more of a Marley deal, I think, right? I don't know.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyways, so Treliving had a pretty busy July 1st, July 2nd, signed four major guys, let's call it that. And now we're kind of in I don't want to say sticky situation, because the cap does not matter in the offseason, right? You can exceed the cap by 10% in the offseason, but it will matter in the coming months when the season starts. So right now, as we are on this podcast recording the night of July 5th, the Leafs are $8 million over the cap. You take away that $5.625 million cap hit from Jake Muzzin. The Leafs are now $3.2 million over the cap. What are the Leafs going to do? What are we going to do here? We have to move someone out, right? We also have Ilya Samsonov coming. He's an RFA. We don't know what his deal is going to be, but we assume it's probably going to be close to something like maybe what Matt Murray got, maybe Nedeljkovic from the past years, when there's Nedeljkovic and the other I'm forgetting their names now.
Billy Husso, 3 years, 475.
Somewhere in that range. We're probably looking at that. So how are the Leafs going to clear cap space here this offseason? Who are the biggest names that you've seen floating around?
In terms of clearing cap space?
Yeah.
I mean, obviously Matt Murray.
Yeah.
Maybe move out Muzzin's contract as well. I'm not sure to where or how you will be able to do that. I mean, in terms of 1 year, 4.6875 million, how much is that worth?
So yeah,
I wonder, can he just go on LTIR?
Maybe. It seems like the way that they're operating, it seems like they're just going to stick him on LTIR. You know how I've been about this. I've been super skeptical about how they're gonna pull that, simply because the guy was on our bench for the playoffs. Yeah, right. He was our backup goalie.
Joffrey Lupul was on record saying he's ready for training camp.
Yeah, fair enough. But I think that's different because it's from the outside looking in, right? The NHL would probably be more. Mm-hmm. I don't know what the right word is, but more stickler about that, right? Because
Johnny Boychuk was being shopped right before he suddenly had to retire.
Same with, I think similar thing to Mike Smith too.
Brent Seabrook was ready and roaring to go.
Yeah, I don't know. So yeah, that could easily be a possibility there. But let's say we sign.
Yeah, it's a pipe dream in my opinion.
Yeah,
but you gotta hope.
I mean, regardless, if we sign Samsonov, we're currently $3 million over the cap with Jake
Muzzin
on LTIR. So if we sign, I don't know, if we sign Samsonov, what we're saying for $4.5, we're still $3 million over, even if we put Murray on LTIR. So that means someone else would probably have to go. Is there anyone else you've heard be talked about at all, or?
No one really. I've heard TJ Brody's name floated out there, but that's just that's not actual information. It's a lot of speculation. And when you look at it, it's $5 million, right? Who else's salary that is of importance? Who else is that can you move out for that much money? There isn't really anyone. When you look at it, the highest paid guys, Matthews, Tavares, Martin, or Nylander, you're not moving any of those guys Tavares has a full no move clause as well. You cannot move him, right? Morgan Riley, full no move clause, can't move him. John Klingberg, you just signed. Jake McCabe only makes $2 million. Lilgren only makes 1.4. Timmins only makes 1.1. Giordano only makes 800K. Kind of leaves TJ Brody, who was debatably one of your best defensemen last year, which sucks, but it's the only guy.
Yeah,
I don't know. Like maybe John Tavares starts the season on LTIR. This is a really tough cap situation.
yeah, and I think TJ Brody makes the most sense to deal number wise and term wise because again he only has that 1 year,
1 year left
on his deal, and he makes
But
the
then
most
who
money.
plays top right side? Like if you're right side, you go into the season, it's Klingberg, Timmins, and Logren.
We were exactly where we were when we had. I probably are in a better situation
Tyson
than like
Barrie.
Tyson Barrie. Yeah. So, I mean, the forward group's definitely better. That helps. The goalies, I mean,
Yeah.
depends what you think about Samsonov compared to Anderson. And I guess who was that? I think it was Garrett Sparks back. Boy, wow.
Well, it was Hutchinson that season, was it not?
Was it Hut? Maybe it was Hut. I think it started out
Oh,
Sparks and then it went to Hutchinson. But
that
yeah,
was
like
Sparks was the year before.
oh, okay.
Remember, because they went into the playoffs and he's like, "I'll be ready for next year," and they're like, "We still have
Nope.
playoffs." And he's like, "Oh, I mean, I'll be ready if they call me." And then like they cleared out his locker. They're like, "Okay, this is not working."
That's crazy. But yeah, so I mean, of all the guys to get moved, I think TJ Brody makes the most sense. Unless like this is them preparing for like a Nylander move. Cause I mean, if you sign, sorry, I was wrong about the cap space. I had Nicholas Robertson still on the roster. So actually they have 2.4 mil. They're 2.4 mil over the cap, without signing Ilya Samsonov. So, signing Ilya Samsonov to 3 or 4, I mean, that's like right in range for Nylander money. So maybe this is what they're preparing for. I don't know, but I saw people saying like to maybe trade Jake Muzzin. Just want to let people know that doesn't affect the cap at all, right? It's like a null move. The only like Jake Muzzin would be an asset to a team like the Arizona Coyotes who are looking to hit the cap floor and don't want to pay real dollars because his salary, his AAV counting towards the cap is greater than the amount of money he needs to be paid out by the team. So I wouldn't just like, we're not looking to dump Jake Muzzin. That's not something that the Leafs would want to do. He's actually probably an asset to a team like that. So, yeah, there's a lot of misconceptions about LTIR, but
what about,
could
you acquire Brent Seabrook's contract?
Doesn't make a difference.
Help?
Doesn't make a difference.
No? Okay.
Doesn't make a difference. No. Because when the guy's on LTIR, that just means you can exceed the cap by the guy being on LTIR, but the guy on LTIR, his amount also counts towards the cap. So if you acquired Brent Seabrook, who makes, let's just say he makes 6 mil, you're now able to go over.
You're going to be able to go over by 6.875.
But he makes that. So you're already over that.
6, yeah.
Exactly. So the only time that really works is when you have a guy who's going to be coming back for the playoffs, like you saw what Vegas did, like you saw what Tampa Bay did. Then it's effective because you're able to use those guys in the playoffs without them essentially counting towards your cap hit. So that's where it's effective.
How did Vegas get out of cap hell like 5 years in a row?
I don't know. They're just
what did they do? 1 year they traded for Shea Weber. I can't remember for Dadonov.
Yeah. I don't know. They did a lot of stuff. They like we talked about this last podcast. They dumped Schmidt. They dumped guys. They just dumped guys at the right time and weren't afraid to use assets to get rid of contracts if it meant that it would make their team better this year, which is like it just ended up working for them in the long run. So I kind of flirted with this idea as we were talking about it with like what the direction the Leafs are going to go in. But it sounds like Nylander, just moving over to William Nylander and like the expectation of his contract coming up. I mean, what are we going to do with this guy? Like, right? Because I wanted to stay on the team, but it sounds like a lot of the insiders, I think it was Chris Johnson talking on the Steve Dingle podcast network, that he's expecting upwards of $10 million, like greater than $10 million. He thinks he's a $10 million and greater player. So, I mean, do you see a fit with this team at $10 million for William Nylander? Do you think that's a realistic number for him? And if so, like, would you be, Kevin Papetti kind of hinted at it with our interview with him almost a month ago now. He didn't sound like he was comfortable giving Nylander I don't want to put words in his mouth, but like 9 years at $9 million at 8 years term. I can't imagine he'd be anywhere near comfortable giving him $10 million at 7 year term. So what if the number is 10, what term are you comfortable with? And is Nylander a fit for this team at $10 million? Not talking about the player, right? The contract matters in this situation. Is he a fit here at that number?
The issue is, like, unless you trade him, like if you lose him for nothing, like,
yeah, you can't lose him for nothing. I think that's a problem.
If you lose him for nothing, then next offseason you're going to have to go big fish hunting.
Yep.
Which you're going to have to do that probably with like a 29, 30-year-old guy. And that shrinks your window
but
a little bit, I would say.
Slight pushback.
Is the guy as good as Nylander? I'm not probably not.
Slight pushback here. Nylander is going to be 29 next year. So
28.
28. Sorry, yeah,
yes.
28. 28 next year. So I mean,
yeah, I see
one less year.
I meant 30. Okay, we'll say 30. A 30-year-old guy next season. So then that kind of shrinks your window a little bit. And is the player as good? I'm not too sure. Am I comfortable giving Nylander 9.5 or 10? Sorry. Does he fit at 10?
I understand the cap goes up just to fill the space here. I'll let you ponder on
5,
this.
yeah.
Cap is expected to go up, and we talked about it might go up for years, right? But
yeah,
for me at least, just to kind of interject here, it feels a little rich to me because, I mean, if you expect, listen, I'm not the guy who's on the ice, coach. I'm not the guy on the bench coaching the team. But if you have your coach playing him on power play too, if you have him playing 18 minutes a night, I mean, is that someone who you would pay $10 million? That doesn't seem right to me, right? If you think,
is that a coach that you want?
I don't know. Again, like that. But here's the thing: that decision's already made, right?
I kind of dislike the coach.
Fair enough, but we got to work with what we have right now, right? We can't just.
You can fire the coach. You can't fire the player.
That's true. You can. Yeah, fair enough. Very true.
Right?
But
I'm just looking at Matt Barzal, 9.15. Matt Barzal last season, although plays with a far inferior team to William Nylander. I mean, Barzal hit 85 points once, and that was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, like 6 years ago. So at 10, my cutoff is like 9.5, but what's 9.5 to 10?
Yeah,
and then am I accounting for the cap going up? What's the cap situation? But then what's Matthews looking for? In this assumption, what's Matthews looking for?
I don't know. Matthews is like, it seems like the team knows what Matthews wants. I don't know. They haven't come to a deal yet, but
was it you that heard something like 14?
Yeah, I thought I heard 14 by 5, but that might be wrong. And if that's the case, then I think there's no chance you can keep Nylander here. There just simply isn't a way. There's no number. Like, how does that work? Right?
It's a tough decision. At what number do you let such a good player go? And where do you send him where you can recoup something equivalent? It's such a loaded question because then you have to go roster searching and see, like, could you pry this guy from this team kind of thing? Like, who could have guessed that Florida, well, other than that one random guy on YouTube, who could have guessed that Florida trade?
It's almost impossible. How about this? How about I pose you this question? Would you be comfortable? Let's say you trade him for picks and prospects, right? That's what we get back for Nylander. Do you think this team can make the playoffs? Assuming, I mean, you got to assume we would get like a roster player at $6 million. Like when you open up $6 million cap space, like you assume you get a roster player. But let's operate under the assumption that we keep Matt Murray, right? We keep Ilya Samsonov, and the money that we dump is essentially William Nylander. We get picks for him. We get prospects for him. Do you think this roster can make the playoffs without William Nylander?
I think can they make the playoffs?
Because I think that's the big question. If you can do that, you can make the playoffs, then you have a boatload of assets to.
I mean, also though, I will say this: like, just because a team that made the last playoff spot and went all the way to the cup final, like, it's very, very unlikely. Like, you need to be competitive, right?
Is this team competitive?
Is it competitive without Nylander?
Yeah.
All else held the same. Is it competitive without Nylander? I would say no.
Okay, I think this team would be able to compete without Nylander. Maybe people don't like that, but I don't know. Maybe I'll get roasted. Maybe I'll get roasted for this. Who knows? But I think that this team can still easily make the playoffs without William Nylander. And I think if you were to, again, maybe I'm going to get roasted for this. I don't know. But I think also maybe if you get assets for him, like picks and prospects, you could probably turn those picks and prospects into really good players at the trade deadline, right? Like that'd be the idea, right?
But then then you're missing that elite scoring, and can you make it up in aggregate and depth scoring? Like,
who knows?
I don't know. Again, like when you're looking at players, my thing is like Nylander can create offense. He can create offense on his own. He's a top 6 guy that can create offense on his own. There aren't many guys that can do that. 2 40-point guys is real, like for an 80-point guy, or even like a 50-point guys for an 80-point guy is really dicey, because a lot of 50-point guys can't create offense on their own. They're just in really good positions. And it's really dependent on the role you put them in. Right?
Yeah.
Like you put Konechny with Tavares and Calle Yarncroc or whatever. They had Kerfoot there for a long time, right? Is he going to put up a point a game? I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Konechny to make that decision. So that's where, like, I'm not just at a cutoff point of Nylander wants X, let him walk. And you get picks and prospects back. Because, I don't know, maybe even if it's like Lucas Raymond and you send him to Detroit and you get Lucas Raymond back, then are you competitive? Are you that confident in Lucas Raymond making a jump from being a point in every other game, or a 60, what was he last year? 40 some odd points?
Not sure.
He's a young player though. He's very, very young still. So there's potential there, but how much potential is there?
45 points in 74 games, 57 the year before.
So then are you comfortable if it's Lucas Raymond plus picks and prospects or whatever? Are you then comfortable? Like, I think the Leafs could make the playoffs there. Will they be deadly? Will they be a cup favorite? Cup favorite, absolutely not. How much damage could they do? That's where, like, I think people underestimate. Like, we pay $40 million to the top 4 whatever forwards.
But there's a reason.
Like, there's a freaking reason for that.
Yeah, and that's also part of the reason why it's so hard to come up with these like fake trades with players, right? And that's kind of why I brought up picks and prospects, because like it's so impossible. Because again, you're not gonna get equal value for William Nylander. You won't. And again, these are all just hypothetical scenarios. I don't know what's best. I just don't know. Honestly, like, how comfortable are you just walking him to free agency? Like, I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe we shouldn't trade them for picks. Maybe that's better. That's the best option here.
So here's the thing with that. Like, it's very, very dicey.
Of course.
It's very, very dicey, but it's to me, it's a legitimate option, because you're ruining, like, would you rather ruin a full important ass year of this core's window, or actually just like shutting the door on this core's window by trading him for a less effective roster player and picks and prospects that will help you in the future? Or are you better off letting it play out and rolling the dice that he resigns?
Yeah, I think that's right. Yeah. And
the issue is, like, we've seen Louis Gross is a very aggressive agent.
He's done this before. So, and it's funny because he obviously, Treliving is going to say that this stuff doesn't matter, but he was the same agent for Johnny Gaudreau. And when the clock at 11:59, all signs were pointing to Gaudreau staying, and then 11:59.30 seconds. Yeah, we're out of here. We're actually going to Columbus. So
for less money.
So we've seen this happen before. So, and literally to the guy who is the current GM of the team, not only did we see it happen before, but to
we almost lost Nylander for a full year because of these negotiations.
Exactly.
With Louis Gross.
So I think I'm in your camp here. Maybe the best course of action is just, worst case, you just walk him to free agency and hope you can land a big fish in that free agent offseason, I guess, in that next year's offseason, if Nylander decides to walk and take more money. Because again, if we're looking around the league, like one last second before we get out of here, Meyer got 8 by 8, right? DeBrincat wants that much. How much of a difference is there between DeBrincat, Meyer, and Nylander? I think they're all pretty similar. Maybe like Nylander's probably the best of the three, but
he's best. He's the best.
I mean,
Meyer claimed he took less. How much is less? I don't know. Like, I felt like maybe 8 by 8 could have been a good template kind of thing.
Yeah.
For what Nylander should have taken. Was the I took less a media play? Quite possibly. It's smart. But like, yeah, I don't know. I think back to like that Nylander first negotiation on the contract, and it's just like Nick Ehlers was right in front of us.
Yeah.
Like that was a comparable player at the time. And like, yet then it took till the 11th hour to get, it's pretty similar to Nick Ehlers' contract.
Yeah.
But yeah, this is a tricky one. Like, it feels like Matthews' deal is done. And I wonder how egregious it's going to be.
We just got to wait and see for that. We got to wait and see. And I think once that happens, we'll start to see the other pieces.
What number would you be comfortable with it being the highest? Like what's the highest AAV that you're comfortable with for Matthews?
I love the player. So I honestly am comfortable with any AAV. Like actually, that's a cop out, but like I'm giving him the max. I don't care. I want to like
16.
If these guys want to stay, I want to keep them together for as long as possible. If William Nylander wants to stay, let's keep him together for as long as possible, right? But if he wants to walk, then let him walk. Like that's the thing, right? If we know he's gonna leave,
eventually they got to get off the ice.
Yeah, obviously. But I mean, if you're gonna like listen, I'm down to extend Matthews to 35 at whatever number he wants. If he wants to do 8 years, that's the biggest thing for me. The biggest
selfishly, it's a lot easier to do this show when they're competitive.
Yeah, obviously.
A lot more people are interested.
For sure. But yeah, who knows? We don't want to take it for granted. Who knows how long it'll be will be around for. But again, like I said, I'll take them to 35 any day of the week at any number. So if he signs that, I just want to see that by 8 by when he signs that deal. Whatever the number is, X8. That's all I want to see.
X8. That's fingers crossed on that one. But yeah, we haven't heard any good things out of this Nylander negotiation. I mean, I just think back to like, you could say, oh, the rumors, whatever. Like it's just like people talking out of their ass, people looking for clicks. But it's like, we said this that offseason that Nylander held out. And then what happened? It took to the 11th hour. And it seemed like looking back, some of those rumors were true, where the rumor was team was offering 5. He was asking for 8. And he got 6-9. So
yeah,
or 6-9, yeah, something, whatever. So the rumors aren't
not the best.
Yeah, I'll listen to the rumors until he puts pen to paper, essentially.
All right,
but yeah, that's all I had on that front. It really is something to think about.
Yeah. And let us know what you want AV term for Matthews, for Nylander. What do you think they'll be extended for? If you think we should trade Nylander, or if you're walking him to free agency, if you made it this far, just drop a comment below. Let us know what you think about the show, and let us know what you think about those two guys. Because I mean, we don't know when it's going to happen, but I'm pretty sure I said this all throughout last year. I do not foresee Austin Matthews going into training camp with 30 mics in front of his face without a contract signed. So. Maybe Nylander's fine with it, but
it'd be a nightmare for him. I'd fake an injury.
Yeah. My vocal cords are broken. Can't give an interview.
Yeah. Anyways, that's all I had for, I think that's all we had for today. Pretty big news day. This is like the last episode kind of substance. We got to start coming up with fun ideas from here on out kind of thing. Right.
Yeah. We got a bunch
We'll
of
keep
ideas.
pumping them out.
We'll pump them out. Don't worry.
The lack of Leafs news allows for creativity.
Exactly.
Right.
So
anyways.
Yeah.
All right. That's all we got for today.
Go, let's go.